Welcome back, Phosphor friends, for the concluding chapter in our trilogy of arcade games that I originally encountered at a fishing resort called Gaston's on the White River in northern Arkansas in the summer of 1982 on a vacation where I spent the first day fishing and simultaneously getting an epic sunburn. That kept me inside for the rest of this week-long trip, which, this was not an easy place to get into in 1982. I gather it's grown even bigger now, and I thought, since I've spent so much time talking about this place, I thought I should actually get on the web and see if it actually still exists. And it turns out that the answer is yes, it does. In fact, it has grown so much that it has its own airstrip. Now, I found another picture. Obviously, this is the marina entrance. This is where you come back with your catch, which the specialty of the White River and the specialty of the house, obviously, is rainbow trout, which is really delicious. And I caught a bunch of them that first day, and I didn't catch any for the rest of the trip because my mother decided it was probably safer for me to stay out of the sun and in the air-conditioned arcade with my 4-alarm sunburn. I found a photo of the land entrance, or the office and gift shop area, and if memory serves correctly, this little building back here, that is what was in 1982 the Gaston's game room, where I encountered Fantasy, Eyes, and Warp, all three of which were originated by different companies in Japan, but for the U.S. market, as far as the U.S. market was concerned, they were all distributed by Rock-Ola. Now, Warp originated in Japan with Namco, the makers of Pac-Man, and you kind of get that sense. In fact, I've got my buddy here, Warpy, the big-tongued space froggy, who is the star of Warp, one of the stars of Warp, right here with me as I record this. So let's give this a try. It's a very unique 2-stage game with different play mechanics for each stage, but this being Namco and this being 1980 or 81, in Japan the game was known as Warp and Warp, but for the US market it was just called Warp, which I actually think is cuter. It's kind of catchier. It's like something a little kid would say, and I was actually younger at that time than my oldest son is now. God, I'm getting old. Anyway, so let's play Warp. The first stage, you have kind of this open tank in which your enemies appear, the aforementioned big-tongued space froggies. And your job is to avoid the missiles that they fire at you and try to nail them with your own projectiles. They change colors as they go down the warmer side of the color wheel. First turning from yellow to orange to red. This indicates that they are getting faster and more aggressive. Obviously, if you see a red one, that guy is bad news, and you need to invite him to a nice hot plate of death. Now you're in a maze. And instead of shooting lasers, you are dropping grenades, basically. That only got one of them. Ugh. I'm probably going to have to play several games of this to really expose you to all the nuances of it. There's no limit to how many grenades you can drop, but there's also no limit of how many big-tongued space froggies are going to chase you through the game. Obviously, we need to play this again. See if I can do better this time. Let me just play it without quite so much chatter, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, if you get the green frog-like character, as opposed to the big-tongued space froggies who are pursuing you all the time, and, in my case, catching me, you get quite a few bonus points for the green frogs, the things that actually look like frogs. I don't know why I call them big-tongued space froggies. You know, you see one frog, you think they're all frogs. Am I even going to make it off the first level? No. No, I'm actually getting worse. Alright, let's try this again. Now, for those of you who have been watching for a while and know how often I recommend that you visit Arcadia Retrocade in Fayetteville, Arkansas, in the Evelyn Hills Shopping Center, they do have a working Warp cabinet. In fact, I should have thought to queue up the photo of Vic Sage and myself playing that. Not even going to make it off the first board in this game either. Okay. Each successive score is worse than the one before. To the best of my knowledge, this game did not get a home port until Namco itself added it to Namco Museum for the PlayStation 1. Am I even going to crack 1,000 points this time? Oh, I could have if I got that big-tongued space froggy. Oh, good. I much prefer the maze stage. $780 points. I am getting worse with each game. This is what I get for recording late at night. Interesting how they ascend and descend in terms of aggression. Let's get out of here. I look forward to blowing you guys up. Alas. The big-tongued space froggies have prevailed, but that, as you can see, is Warp, which is an unusual little jewel in Namco's crown. Like I said, they did include it in one of the volumes of Namco Museum for the PlayStation 1, so obviously they were at least a little bit proud of it. I think it might have done better if it had gotten the promotional push that it could have gotten from a larger distributor such as Midway or Atari. Now, curiously, Atari had its choice of either Warp Warp or Dig Dug from Namco. It had its choice of taking the American rights, or the North American rights, for one of those two games. And it chose Dig Dug. I don't think they were wrong. Warp Warp is not quite as engaging in terms of replay value as Dig Dug is, but it is its own unique animal. And its spirit animal is a big-tongued space froggy, after all. And so I think a little more promotional TLC might have propelled this game beyond the not even a sleeper hit territory that it occupied in the American arcades. Which is kind of sad. I'm very fond of Warp Warp. And I will admit that my fondness for it is for sentimental attachment to a time and a place and a situation, and, spending time with my mom, which was something that, 5 years later would no longer even be possible. So my sentimental attachment to it has to do with factors other than the gameplay itself, but I'm still very fond of the game. And I am always up for blowing up some big-tongued space froggies. If you ever happen into Arcadia Retrocade in Fayetteville, Arkansas, you too could be blowing up some big-tongued space froggies. Thanks for watching.